Hi Tribe, Sheea here, discussing Tantra and relationships and the new era we're entering into where all this is going to improve, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I know it needs a lot of work, so I'm here to contribute to the field. I've been in the field for 20 years full time, which is not easy to find people like us out there. And so I'm proud of that. And I do want to start sharing more around up leveling us in our relationship and sex lives so that we're hitting the mark more of what it's, I think, meant to be like. And so this is the second video in a series where I was talking to the men and empathizing with where they're at. And I feel like there's a lot of, they talk about loneliness being somewhat of an epidemic. I think men are probably, a lot of them are relying on porn to sort of meet that need. And I often wonder, gosh, what would this world be like if we didn't have porn to run to or anything sexual online to keep us distracted or give us the temporary feeling of having a sex life of some kind. If all that was removed, it would force us to connect with each other and back in the old ways before they had internet, where you have to be face to face with someone and you have to have relational skills and you have to have skills with the opposite sex. Otherwise, you're not going to be as effective in your relationships. And so, relationships require presence. They require presence as well as um, time, obviously, quality time, and genuine love, showing up as love. And so it feels like we're going to probably be going back to those original templates, of meeting each other and connecting with each other in real time. Uh, because all this online stuff is somewhat fake and fantasy, probably. Although, I mean, I'm grateful for the positive side of it because it allows me to connect with a lot of clients that don't live where I live and they can get, the nuts and bolts of things and some, major tips that are game changers. So it can be used for positive and also, for the, but I know just from, coaching a lot of men and couples and women that porn ends up being kind of a little bit of a crutch, and it's it's kind of demotivating to actually go out and connect with a real woman, and it does take skill to do that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that because it definitely takes some skill to be effective with the opposite sex. um And I'm always amazed at how some just seem to come into this life having that already and some totally don't. And I know for myself, communication skills was the biggest thing I had to focus on to really up level that to the point where I feel like I can handle any situation with some effectiveness and grace. And through NVC, nonviolent communication, which has been renamed like conscious communication or compassionate communication. Um, there's a book out around that, but it came alive when I got into practice groups that I am so blessed to have gotten to experience in Maui, where I lived for almost 2 decades. And it was a game changer for me because if you don't have your voice and if you're stopping yourself or biting your tongue and you're not sure how to communicate difficult information, then it is very crippling. And I realized this when I noticed that, hey, if I really get good communication skills, I can, all my relationships across all avenues of life improve. And it probably isn't the sexiest thing to focus on or go to a workshop about, or But thank God we have things like YouTube where we can look up these things, and it really gets in your bones when you can practice them. And of course, I incorporate them into my coaching because they are so key. Because I just remember, growing up and not having my voice and feeling like, oh my God, I'm not sure what to say. Like, this is such an awkward moment. Like, as a young person navigating and curious and working through how, boundaries and how to be with men and all that, it was like there were moments where I was like, oh my God, this is so bad, but I don't want to like emasculate him. And yet I'm shocked right now as to what just happened and how he feels like, I guess that he thinks that's okay or whatever. That's kind of what got me into this field, is because I was like, wow, we really need to learn a lot. And I want to support that because it was just so painful. Uh, and so today I want to extend some empathy towards women. And it's great for both sides, men and women, to hear this because they understand each other better when you hear each side. And I realized recently I had this download where I was like, being in this business, in order for me to show up kind of as this lover archetype who's caring and connective and, where touch is involved in coaching around relationship and sensitive issues. Um, in order for me to show up at my best and at my fullest, I have to live a certain lifestyle. And it really surprised me because it was one of those things where, because I live in it, I don't see it, but Spirit gave me the ability to see this in a fresh way recently. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true that the how I do my day, in order to embody this and to live this way, which I actually really love and allows me to show up for my clients in, kind of, as love, basically. That means that I have a certain lifestyle that's supportive of that. And what dawned on me, ladies, is that you're being expected to show up as that in the bedroom, kind of on the fly a lot of times. Just when you can fit it in, or when it seems like your timing um, coincides with your partner and it's maybe not the most in flow timing for you, and you're having to just kind of make it work. And it just made me sad thinking about that, about the woman out there who's, it's like we're almost caught between two cultures, like the old school stuff and then the new. And we're finding our way and navigating how can we do this better? Because I can understand why the stay-at-home mom back in the day had the space and the freedom to put energy towards being a lover, because she had that time at home, maybe while her kids were at school. She, made sure the house and the kids' needs were met, but she wasn't trying to do a full-time career or self-support herself financially also. So it's like having two huge careers at the same time these days, I think, for a lot of women. I know it takes a lot of energy for me to self-sustain because I'm running my business single-handedly and my home single-handedly, and all the things, all the moving parts that go with each one of those. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have kids and a partner and managing a bunch of people on top of that. I guess my clients and my friends are kind of, where that comes in, but it's just too much to juggle. It's not even realistic. And so many of you women are living this daily, with full-time career, yet you're supposed to be a mom full-time. You can't get out of that unless you're dropping the ball, which many of you feel probably guilty about at times. And then, then you're supposed to have a marriage too in this, love relationship. It's like there's not enough time to do all those well. uh I feel like a lot of you are flying by the seat of your pants, and that we've gotten into this culture of rushing and forcing and pushing to the point where presence and just being and having spaciousness, let alone having moments to ourselves to, kind of get into a space that's more conducive to a rhythm of, being romantic. And it made me feel like, gosh, this is insightful, I think, for men to understand where, like, if you want your woman to be able to show up that way, she might need an hour or two lead time just to help her get into that space, because she's most likely exhausted. She's acting like a man and a woman and having to juggle that, plus mother, wife, all the other things she does, caretaker. And she's going to need to take a bubble bath and like have some alone time just to connect with herself first, after juggling kids and all the things that she does. Career, if she has a demanding career, it's no wonder that we're reaching this point where we're hitting a wall in our relationship among masculines and feminines. And kind of, I think the wake up call has come already, or at least I've seen it for quite some time now with the dating world and what it's become. And it's like, oh my God, really? Um, so I think the shit has hit the fan already. And we're kind of like, okay, now what? Like, how do we do this better? Like, we've lost our way. This is too much. It's not natural. It's not normal for a woman to be able to pull all that off in a way that is going to be realistic and effective. So I just wanted to acknowledge that on your behalf, because I have specifically chosen not to go that route. I'm all about having a partner, but I just know there needs to be some balance between all these different parts of life. And everyone's probably feeling overextended, feeling like they're having to keep up and they're barely keeping their head above water. And I just want to salute you for hanging in there, for doing this for years, maybe decades, and feeling exhausted and not even knowing, because you're so in it, that, hey, this is not realistic. This is not how life was meant to be, or how it was originally designed to happen. So, anyway, I hope that's comforting to you. And I will continue to discuss these topics, since I am a sociology major and before I got into this world. So I have a kind of a very much so a community perspective and a cultural perspective about all these things. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time.